Up next on VIC, noon to 1, it's the place to be. Talking sports with the MVPs. Miller, Vicari, and Passante. NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, college sports, whatever you need. An MVP show where you need to be. Sports radio on VIC, that's MVP. Sundays on VIC.
The mic's on a second.
That's MVP. Sports Talk Radio.
Mics are on in 3, 2, 1.
This is the MVP show in studio for the last time in this semester. We have a lot of sports to talk about, but before that, I'm John Vicari, alongside...
I'm Brennan Miller.
And I'm Dan Passante.
Yeah, and we're in May, boys.
John, you got some energy today. I'm hyped. Let's go.
I do. I'm excited. I think we have a good show for the next hour here on VIC Radio as well as on YouTube. We have a lot to talk about, Brennan. A lot to talk about. We have a guest coming up at 12:30. We have a guest that's a little more personal to you coming up at 12:50.
I don't know. You keep saying that, and I don't know what it means. Okay? You won't tell me who this guest is, and I have a feeling I know who it is.
Yeah.
I guessed yesterday, and I got some kind of reaction. But again, you just won't tell me anything.
No.
I really don't appreciate it because I feel like I'm a valued member of the show, John.
No,
I
absolutely.
feel like I should be in the loop.
I think I'm doing it because it's, I don't want to hurt your feelings, obviously, but I think it'll be
Hurt
better
my
this
feelings?
way than if it's announced beforehand. Because this is your last show in studio. Not to get too emotional right away.
Yeah, no, you're right. I am a senior.
Yeah.
Well, 3-year senior.
Yeah.
So this is technically my last show in studio. It won't be my last show. And
No.
hopefully it won't be my last show, ever. That's obviously the goal. But here in the VIC studio, this is gonna be it for old B-Dog.
I know.
It's sad stuff, man. It really is. I'm not one to get like super sentimental. Just because a lot of I think of a lot of things that I do is like an ends to a mean, where like I'm trying to get to another point, and obviously the things that I do help contribute to that, and get me to the places where I need to go. So I don't get super sentimental all the time, but this is a freshman year original. The three of us, obviously, Nick for those 2 years prior, and then us just kind of jumping on ourselves and being able to take care of this is obviously not a lot to me. I'm not gonna do it right now.
Yeah, that's it. We're getting a little teary-eyed. It's all right. I'll still get you emotional, just a different kind of way right now, because we're gonna.
Thank you. I appreciate that, John, so much.
Because we're gonna talk a little NFL draft, and obviously we're gonna give you the local perspective, my Giants, the Jets, and Dan's Bills as well. But I think one of the main storylines coming out of night one of the draft, and really that whole day, not even that night, just the day in general, was of course the situation regarding the Green Bay Packers.
Mm-hmm.
Because it came out earlier this week that he's not happy there, and that no matter what, because obviously the team has the rights to bring him back in Green Bay, but he doesn't want to play. Trade me, keep me regardless. I'm not playing next year. Those were the reports. Now, obviously, yesterday he was at the Kentucky Derby, and he sort of just, whisked aside any...
He looked great, by the way.
He did. He did look phenomenal in his glasses. I like Brady in his hat a little more, but but in terms of looks among NFL quarterbacks, not skilled right now though, and that's a reason, Brennan, that I'm sure you are very annoyed at, and I know you're very annoyed because I saw your reaction to it. The Packers had a late pick in the first round, and they decided to go with cornerback Eric Stokes.
Yes, they did. They needed a cornerback. I will say that.
Yes.
Should they have taken one with their first round pick? Especially with Elijah Moore still on the board, who will now be wearing the green and white as a member of the New York Jets, who take it early second round. They shouldn't have taken a corner in the first round. They did. I wasn't overly happy about it. He also wasn't. I'm a big getting into the draft guy, so I watch a lot of. I don't watch a ton of film, but I pay attention to what the experts are saying because I figure they get paid to do that. So their opinions probably matter a little bit. He wasn't really the best available cornerback on anyone's board, so even at that point, it kind of threw me off. But the Packers are just as an organization, not really killing it right now, huh? Kind of. Whoo! I will say, the first day of the draft, I was wearing my Green Bay Packers sweatshirt, and then of course all the news came out about the fact that the Packers have been treating their franchise quarterback so wrong for so long. Look at that, I could write songs. And the sweatshirt immediately came off because this franchise
Wow.
is kind of being a dirtbag. Like Aaron Rodgers, like the franchise itself. Aaron Rodgers is a top 5 quarterback of all time. Talent-wise, he's a guy that knows how to lead. He's a guy that any team, literally any team, would be so thankful to have. And you're going to go out and you're not going to give him the money he wants. I understand this year he's taking a $37 million cap hit, which is big. I'm not going to lie. Like, no team is going to want to have that kind of money on their cap. But at the same time, like, the dude, he's been in the organization for 16 years. He's proven that he can go out and win. He's won a Super Bowl. Yes, it was only one. But a lot of that has to do with the coaching prior to our boy LaFleur. Yes, he's gone out and he's proven that he can be a quarterback. So why a quarterback that you can succeed behind? So why would you not give him the money that he needs? Why would you not give him the weapons that he needs? Like, I went back and looked. The Packers have not drafted a wide receiver in the first round since 2002. Javon Walker went, and yes, he was a Pro Bowler at one point, I believe, as a return man, not even as a wide receiver. So the Packers just don't give any weapons. Like, I was going through and reading, the last time the Packers took an offensive skill player in the first round of the NFL draft was Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. It was like, other than Jordan Love last year, but obviously he has not played at all, and they traded up for that one. But the last time they took an offensive skill player in the first round was Aaron Rodgers in 2005. They have not gotten him any weapon. I think the stat that came out last year was the fact that last year was the first year that he had actually thrown a touchdown pass to a first-round weapon, which was Mercedes Lewis, not even a Packer, not even drafted as a Packer. He was drafted as a Saint, or as a Bear, I believe. And then the Packers picked him up in free agency. The man's been in the league. He's been consistently starting in the NFL for 13 seasons, 3 years behind Favre, 13 years starting, and you can't get him any first-round talent to actually throw the ball to. Like, I get it. Yes, the Packers have gotten lucky. They've had Jordy, Randall Cobb, Donald Driver, Greg Jennings. Like, they've had a bunch of wide receivers who weren't first-round picks who panned out and were very, very good for the time that they were. I meant to say Devontae Adams there as well. But they've had a bunch of guys that they didn't pick in the first round that ended up being great wide receivers. But at the same time, you have to go out and you have to invest in your quarterback. The quarterback is the most important position on the field. We know that. We've said it for years and years and years. And the Packers have just gone out and they have not done anything to help bolster the offense behind Rodgers. It doesn't make any sense to me why you would be willing to lose a generational type quarterback. And it is just very, very irritating to watch as a part owner of the Green Bay Packers. I don't know why I don't consult me on these things.
As you are, and Dan, you want to get in on this and just what the Packers are doing, because you have a quarterback, and obviously we'll talk about the Bills picks a little later, but you have a quarterback in Josh Allen in which the Bills went out, and last year they got a guy like Diggs to help them. And obviously the Packers do have Devontae Adams, but he had an opportunity in 2 straight drafts to get an offensive piece in the first round, and they didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I just Packers fans. I know. I don't really. It's one of those situations where what do you say with Aaron Rodgers? You know, I guess we'll see what ends up happening there. Obviously, he's voiced his opinion on how he feels. But they had an opportunity, and like Brennan said, they have not done that. They have not done what they could have done to keep Rodgers happy, to do a number of things. So we'll see how it goes. You know, they had that opportunity, and this is the choice that they had. So, every partial owner and fan of the Packers certainly has the right to be upset right now.
Yeah, you have a franchise quarterback, you want to put pieces around it, and you'd think. And the Giants, and I know you're probably gonna scoff at this, Brennan, but the Giants think they have a franchise quarterback in Daniel Jones, and they helped put pieces around him in the 2021 NFL Draft. A pick in which was supposed to be 11 and then traded down to 20 after really a magnificent trade with the Chicago Bears. Sure, you give up that 11th spot, and there was other teams that picked maybe players that could have fit the Giants scheme this year, but you get a pick for next year in 2022 in the first round, and depending where the Chicago Bears are in terms of the standings is where the pick will be, though I don't think anyone's picking them to win the NFC North this season. But in terms of getting a weapon, you got one in Kadarius Toney. Obviously, if you followed the show the last 2 weeks, you know that I wanted Devontae Smith badly. Yep. I was excited when Brennan in his final mock draft had an Alabama receiver because even if it wasn't Smith, I wanted Waddle as well, and the Giants didn't get either. But Tony is right below them in terms of level, in terms of ranking. It wasn't that much of a separation. Obviously, I think Devontae Smith, as I've said, is getting just, I think, too much nitpicking on him because of the fact that he was a Heisman Trophy winner and everyone wants to look at the height and look at this. I think he's going to be an absolute stud, and again, the reason I wanted the Giants to get him. Unfortunate that he's going to Philadelphia and he will be an Eagle and he's going to torch the Giants for the next 5 to 10 years possibly, which is unfortunate. But overall, if you told me I wasn't getting Devontae Smith but getting a weapon at less money with the 20th pick and getting a first rounder for next year, I think overall it was a good draft for the Giants. And we can go through the rest of the picks. They needed linebackers. They got one in the second round in Azeez Aldolari, and then a linebacker, Ellerson Smith, an easier name for me to say, in the fourth round. So they addressed that need. They addressed the cornerback need, Aaron Robinson out of Central Florida. And then they got a running back, which I wasn't actually a fan of. I really don't understand it. I mean, you're never going to really hear anyone complain about their team getting a skill player, and I know, Brennan, I don't think you would be either if the Packers got a running back or got a receiver. But, Gary Brightwell out of Arizona, 6th-round pick. We'll see what he could do. Obviously, the Giants recently let Wayne Gallman walk in terms of not signing him back, which was unfortunate because he was really the main runner last year, even though the Giants went through free agency and got a guy like Devontae Freeman. It was Wayne Gallman who late in the season was getting these important carries after Saquon Barkley was injured at the beginning of the year. So hopefully he's someone in the future. I never knew about him, obviously, and there was those first-round running back talents. It wasn't a running back depleted draft, but in terms of the Giants pick. And we just talked on the running backs. We just talked on the cornerbacks and skill position. I understand right now the Giants do have 5 starters in place for offensive line, as do most teams in the NFL, but they have 5 that they're confident in. It doesn't hurt in these late rounds to pick up another offensive lineman, in my opinion. Even if you think they're going to be a backup this season, the Giants' injury history on the offensive line the last 2 seasons has not been great. And the offensive line that's really only adding Nate Solder, who was opted out of last season, to the left tackle position. This Giants O-line did not impress anybody last year. It was pretty just average. Jones obviously had less sacks and less fumbles given up because it was better protection from his rookie season, but not by much. A lost game early in the season was the Cowboys due to a fumble. Versus Chicago early in last season was due to a fumble that got Chicago in territory to kick a field goal. And the Giants lost by 4 in that game. So it did matter, and the number one thing you want to do, because you can give your quarterback all these options, running back, receiver. If they don't have time to develop a run game with an offensive line or give the quarterback time to make the throws, your offense is done anyway. So I'm not saying they should have went with a first rounder because that's obviously what he did last year with Andrew Thomas. But when you're picking a second linebacker or a running back in these late rounds, I would have liked an offensive lineman.
Yeah, I think offensive line is always a position that you can kind of go to when you don't really have anyone else to draft. I think that it's one of those positions where you can never have enough offensive linemen because you're always going to have injuries. Those are guys that consistently get hurt time and time again. But again, John, you mentioned it. You're never going to get me saying that picking a skill player is a bad idea because you really never know who's going to be good. Like, I mean, you take a look at last year. And the only reason I know this is because I was just looking at what wide receivers and skill players were taken after the Packers picked at 26. 26.
Mm-hmm.
James Robinson went undrafted last year and then went and ran for over 1,000 yards. So they're guys that can develop, and you never know. Meanwhile, linemen, you kind of know what you're getting. You can draft a lineman and say, oh, this guy can pass block, this guy can run block, but he can't really do one or the other. Or, he's a big guy, he's 6'8", he's 330 pounds, he's got, like they say in The Blind Side, a wide ass, and then he can play left tackle, but he's not a talent. Like, he's a specimen, but you can develop him into a lineman. And you know what you're getting when you draft linemen. I just like playing a little bit of a riskier game and maybe going for those late round running backs, wide receivers, guys that you never know how they're going to develop personally.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and any thoughts on the Giants picks before we go to your Buffalo Bills?
Well, I think the Giants, I think you said it. You can't really be upset with too many of those things. Yeah, I mean, the Giants had an interesting season last year, and they have some holes to fill, which I think they they're looking to do. You know?
Absolutely. Your thoughts on the Bills picks? We'll talk on Jets after as well because we can go a little more extensive with that and close out this draft segment. But got to recognize the Bills replenishing this roster, getting better, and trying to get back to the AFC Championship and more this season.
Well, like you said, you take offensive line when you don't have much else to take, and Buffalo took a few of those. In the third round, they took Spencer Brown. In the fifth round, they took Tommy Doyle. But overall, Buffalo, they really did, I think, take the best player available that they believed in some situations. I mean, their first-round pick was Gregory Rousseau out of Miami. That's defensive end. And defensive ends are not something that Buffalo's really starving for. But, hey, they'll take it. Those their first two picks. They took Gregory Rousseau and Boogie Basham out of Wake Forest. Big fan of that name right there. So Buffalo added some players that I think that they think are really solid. And at the end of the day, I mean, when you're in the AFC Championship game, I think that's what you want. Obviously, if someone can step up and find a starting role and maybe fit in that offensive line when someone goes down, obviously that's what you hope for. Maybe on the defensive end, but I really have no complaints out of the Bills draft. I haven't heard too many people that are really complaining about it on Twitter or things like that. They made a few trades. They took some good players, and I feel like the story of the Bills draft is that they just kind of drafted. They just did what they had to do.
Absolutely, and there's a retrospective on the Bills draft. We're going to touch on the Jets now, and just to close out this segment, because it's honestly not as fun when we usually do it during the season, especially this past football season. The Jets, because they nailed this.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a bad pick that they made in terms of the need, and I guess that's what happens when you're a team with a lot of needs. But you got the quarterback that you wanted at number 2. Lawrence went number 1, obviously, and they wanted Zach Wilson. They scouted, and it shifted, and obviously you can go back to last week's episode and look at Brennan's mock, and really these quarterbacks, because it's anyone from Trey Lance to Mac Jones to Justin Fields, were in that 2 spot as well, but the Jets felt that Zach Wilson was the best option, the best for their system going forward, and they made that pick. And then they trade up as well, just like New York Giants trade down, the Jets trade up, and they get an offensive guard or tackle in Tucker. He can play both, I believe, right? Yeah, so they got a versatile offensive lineman who they originally wanted with the 23rd pick, and got. So, with trading and with helping another team and getting some picks for next year, and obviously they're giving away some picks as well, but in terms of reading the draft and reading how it was going to go, Vera Tucker might not have been on the board for that long, and you nab him, and now you got someone to protect your quarterback and your franchise quarterback in this draft. Now, obviously, we're putting it in terms that just mean, this is great, and obviously both these players cannot possibly work out, but this is a great stepping stone for the Jets. And then you look at the rest of their draft, they got 2 Michael Carters, which is hilarious.
So funny. And one of them is the second.
Yes.
The second one that they drafted is Michael Carter the second.
Yeah, and the best part, one's from Duke, the cornerbacks from Duke, and the running backs from North Carolina.
Yep.
That's hilarious.
Amazing.
But they decided to go with 2 Michael Carters, and they got some help in the secondary as well, which if you watched any Jets football, was something that they needed to address. And they got a receiver in Elijah Moore in the second round, who was a first-round talent in a lot of mock drafts out of Ole Miss. So overall, and I know it's, maybe not the answer that people want to hear, and they want to look at us and look at the local teams and say they missed on this draft. The Jets didn't. And if I were to rank in terms of, and obviously it's my team, if I were to rank who had the better draft day, it goes Jets, Buffalo, and then the Giants, honestly. Because the Giants did make a smart, impressive trade, but they still missed on Devontae Smith, who, no matter what Dave Gettleman tells you, no matter what some Giants beat writers might say in terms of their reporting when they ask these people, I think that the Giants did want Devontae Smith. The Eagles undercut him, or undercut the team, I should say, for him. And, the Giants had to sort of adjust from there. Even though they made I think, a very smart trade. The fact that they put Tony at they drafted Tony at 20, a little tough for me to say.
There you go.
That's a reason why I thought that going into this draft, they did want Devontae Smith. And when he was available at 11, really or at 10, or a pick before yours, if you're the Giants, you regret not taking him, and hope he doesn't kill you the next couple of years. So that's where I'd rank him. I don't know about you. Obviously, I put the Packers last, right, Brian?
I mean, the Packers still need the one thing that got lost in my entire little rant there is that the fact that the Packers in the first 3 rounds took quarterback, offensive tackle, and wide receiver. They ended up they drafted a wide receiver who is also Rodgers, A. Rodgers, by the way. So regardless, we will have at least one A. Rodgers on the team next year. But very good, very, very good. And I think the Packers filled the needs that they needed. Did they do it in the correct order? That's where I think the question kind of comes. I think there's more value in getting a first-round wide receiver. But again, like I mentioned, skilled players can be guys who you never know how they're going to be, and maybe a guy you draft in the 6th round is going to be a star.
Yeah.
But overall, I think they did very well drafting-wise. I just think they did it in the wrong order.
Okay.
So I don't feel terrible, to be completely honest with you. If I had to give it a grade, maybe a B+. I mean, you'd like to see a wide receiver taken in the 1st round, but other than that, I think that they didn't draft terribly.
Just in round 1, night 1 was terrible.
Yes. No.
Yeah.
Especially, I think that was more in the fact that obviously we didn't know where they were going to go in rounds 2 and rounds 3.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of the thought process of why would you leave so many good wide receivers on the board.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of the issue at the time. But seeing how they ended up finishing that off, I think that it works. And the Packers have been a team that historically drafts very, very well. They've had to because they don't sign free agents. I mean, I think the biggest free agent that they signed last year didn't even play. It was the wide receiver from Carolina. I forget his name. But like they're not a team that goes out and signs big names. Like they signed Reggie White, and he was the last big guy, huge free agent that they actually had a chance at. And like there was a lot of talk about them signing J.J. Watt, but of course that didn't result either. But no, they historically drafted very well, and they drafted very well. Again, maybe just in the wrong way.
So there you go, our thoughts on the NFL draft. If you want to comment, by the way, on our YouTube channel and you're watching on YouTube at the MVP Show, you can to give your thoughts on any of the teams that we talked about in terms of the draft, maybe a steal of the draft, how Brennan's mock was not bad, right? Your mock draft overall?
Yeah. I ended up doing another final one.
Oh, did you?
I do it the day of, just
Yeah.
because obviously that's when we have the most information. I think I got maybe 6 picks. And I had the Bears trading up, but I didn't have them trading up as far as they did, so I had them taking position-wise, I think I was about 50-50, where teams taking the positions that they had, just maybe not the right guys.
Sure.
And you know what? 6 isn't bad. That's
Nope.
about what that's what McShay did last year.
Wow. So there you go. Gotta get some money for it then.
Yeah, I know, right? Someone should start paying me.
So that's our thoughts on the NFL draft. When we come back, we'll talk some more sports. We have a lot of guests lined up for this final show in studio. We have Shlomo Sprung of Forbes and Awful Announcing at 12:30. We have a special guest at 12:50, and which is just annoying, Brennan. And we have much more to talk about. So don't go anywhere, whether you're watching or listening. This is the MVP Show.
Missed that last song? Want to check out our music blog? Well, then log on to www.vicradio.org. See our daily schedule, take a look at our wide selection of specialty programming, and learn more about our annual 50-hour marathon. That's vicradio.org, your online home for the best of what's next.
Hey, join me, DJ Dog, on the kickback. Listen to some classic rock tunes right here on VIC.
What are we talking about?
Medical mistakes take tens of thousands of lives every
Want me to
year.
add another
The
promo, or do you want to
healthcare
come back?
community is
Yeah.
working on it, but you can
You know,
help. When you
the
communicate
theme
with your
song, and be
doctor,
back.
when you ask more questions, you reduce your risk of suffering a medical mistake. Doctors can't answer if you don't ask. Help reduce your risk. Questions are the answer. Learn the 10 questions you must ask. Visit www.ahrq.gov. This message brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality, and the Ad Council.
Do you like listening to your favorite songs? Well, on We Got It Covered, you'll hear them, if not the originals. From pop to country to classic rock to musical theater and more, there's something for everybody to love.
And we guarantee you'll be surprised to hear which of your favorite songs isn't actually an original. Tune in to We Got It Covered on Thursdays 10 to midnight right here on VIC.
Up next on VIC, Noon 1, it's the place to be. Talking sports with the MVPs, that's Miller, Vicari, and Passante. NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, college sports, whatever you need. An MVP show where you need to be. Sports radio on VIC, that's MVP. Sunday on VIC, that's MVP. Sports on radio.
I'll bring us back in 3, 2, 1.
This is the MVP Show. Dan Passante, Brennan Miller, and I'm John Vicari, taking you up until 1 o'clock on VIC Radio, and we're also on YouTube, and you can find that link at the MVP Show on Twitter, so many social medias. We also have a TikTok account, the MVP Show, which we got to update a little more regularly. But we're there, unfortunately, as well. Before we get to our guest and MVP of the week and the things you tune in for, we do want to touch on something because it's breaking in terms of being this morning, and it's something we usually do not cover at all, to be honest with you. We're not going to lie to you and pretend we're experts, pretend, we follow it on a regular day basis. But in terms of some international soccer stuff, pretty crazy. Obviously, I think we touched on it a little. I made a joke that because we were off air for, I would say, we missed the 18th, 18th, 19th week in terms of not being on air, and the Super League was formed by that time, and then also disbanded, so we literally didn't have a show when we knew it was a thing, and when it was eventually canceled, so showed the short tenure that it had. But Brendan, an international soccer story that I think is very, very interesting.
Yeah, no, so this morning, fans of Manchester United have been very, very upset with the ownership of the team. I want to find the Glazer family. So they have been very, incredibly upset. And a few days ago, Eastman put out an article about the fact that the Glazer family was very concerned about the next game that Manchester United was going to be playing because there were rumors of protests and there were a lot of fans that were checking out rooms in the hotel in which the team stayed. So this morning, Manchester United and Liverpool, big game, huge game in the Premier League, the game has been postponed because fans broke into the stadium. There was such a big protest. They said around 1,000 supporters outside the hotel where the team was staying. The fans broke through a large metal gate, got into the stadium, got onto the field. They didn't end up getting down into the locker room and breaking quote unquote COVID protocol in the Premier League. Whatever that may be, because every league has their individual thing. Sure. But the fans, they're mad. They're really mad, and the fact that they broke into a stadium because this team, Joe Glazer is the owner. Yeah. He was the Super League, the Super League that died so quickly. He was the vice president, so he was one of the people in charge of the Super League, and people are very, very, very mad that he wanted to leave. Leave the Premier League. He's already apologized to the fans, but obviously it wasn't enough because they have quite literally delayed a game between two of the top teams in the English Premier League.
Joe Glazer from Rochester, New York. Glazer family. The people who have a building here on this campus.
Yeah.
Same Glazer.
Yes, I know that.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's why I just looked up.
This is Ithaca news.
This is Ithaca news. So that's why we mentioned it. Yeah.
That's
very
why
fun.
we knew it at the start.
I mean, honestly, it's as I think I don't want to say transferable because that's a soccer term too, but we can relate to it because we've had fans who just go crazy in terms of certain things regarding decision making for their teams, and it happens at the international level as well, and the world's game in soccer, and obviously the Ithaca tie-in with Glazer, which I was because when you said Glazer ownership, I'm like, that's not the same Glazer, probably. And then, it is.
Yeah, also owns the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Wow. And the supporters have never really, liked the Glazer family because when he initially bought Manchester United, the way he did it, it was a leveraged takeover. It wasn't a formal buyout of the team. So it sent the team into, hundreds of $1 million of debt. So the fans not happy with him from the beginning in 2005 when he first bought the team, and now that he just tried to take the team and just be who cares about the history of the Premier League and the hundreds of years that we've played this game. Let's just go make as much money as possible. Fans still not happy.
Let's be super.
Let's be supers.
Because when everyone's super,
nobody is.
What is that movie? Yeah. Brendan knows it. Come on.
There's so much pressure right now. Why don't you just tell me? Then maybe I'll know.
It's okay. Well, it's a Disney Pixar movie.
Is it The Incredibles?
It is The Incredibles.
I was going to say that, but I was too scared to bring it up. Yeah, I knew that.
My favorite part of just living with you people is when John will reference a movie and then go, "Hey, Dan, what movie?"
I'm just this is a lot of pressure right now.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's one of my worst traits, I'd say.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we'll take another break, and we're going to have a guest, and Shlomo Sprung call in, I should say. And he's a writer who covers a lot in terms of sports media and also in the basketball world. We have a lot of questions to ask him. Been a reader of his a long time, and I know, Dan, you read Awful Announcing from time to time, too, and have stumbled on his stories. Brennan, you too, right? I mean,
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Should have just said all instead of just individually pointing. But yes, so huge fan, and we'll get him on after the break. So don't go anywhere. You are watching and listening to the MVP Show.
At VIC, the voice of Ithaca College, we prioritize diversity and inclusion. We are working to ensure that more voices
so we're gonna
are
put
heard.
you on speaker.
We support and will
my
continue
phone
to
just
support
because
the Black Lives Matter
when
movement
I
and the
when
victims
I
of
said,
police
I reached
brutality
out, obviously,
and
I
racial
didn't
injustice.
realize that our phone is at a
We have
condition
heard
here in
you.
the studio, and
We
usually
support
go the
you.
Zoom route,
We
so
must
it's a little late.
advocate for change.
So I'll just have you on speaker.
Black lives
But you
matter.
should be able to hear the questions because we're in a radio studio, and again, I appreciate you.
VIC Radio. Hey, what's up?
I'll just put you on
Good,
speaker, and then I'm
good,
going to do my
you know.
intro and bring you in. All right, thank you.
No, tell me what you want to hear. That's why, that's what radio DJs do.
Want to come back right now?
Requests and, you're still talking. Okay, sounds good.
We take requests. Call in at 607-274-1059 or tweet us at VIC Radio.
Here we go. I'll just bring us back. I'll bring us back in a second.
VIC, Noon One, it's the place to be. Talking sports with the MVPs. That's Miller, Vicari, and Passante. NFL, NBA,
20 seconds.
NHL, college sports, whatever you need. The MVP show where you need to be. Sports radio on VIC. That's MVP. Sundays on VIC. That's MVP. Sports Talk Radio.
And we're back.
Welcome back into the MVP Show here on VIC Radio and on YouTube halfway through the show. And we have a special guest, and this man is a writer for Forbes Sports as well, and he's a senior contributor, not just a writer, and also does features for Awful Announcing. I enjoy him on Twitter because one day he'll be at pretty much he won't be at because he'll be over Zoom, but one of these press calls with a media company announcing a new deal, and he's giving quotes, and then the next day he'll be at the Barclays Center covering Brooklyn Nets basketball. But we are joined by Shlomo Sprung. Thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So in terms of what you cover, and obviously I mentioned a lot, this week was the NHL and Turner media rights deal. And for a lot of people, especially for me, I didn't think Turner was even a player in the NHL. I knew that NBC was looking to at least retain half of the rights. They had the full one and then lost it to ESPN when the deal ran out. But I thought it was really between NBC and Fox. Turner came out of nowhere, in my opinion. How did this all develop, and what are your thoughts on if it's good for the league?
Well, I think Turner has kind of been lurking. They've always wanted to have like a property, and I think that their goal has always been to have, some kind of sporting event or sporting product. Like basically every day of the week, you're going to have hockey on, Mondays or Wednesdays, and you're going to have, your wrestling. You're going to have your MLB package starting Tuesday nights in a season or two. You're going to have obviously the NBA on TNT. So you're going to have, sports basically every day of the week. And I think that was important for TNT. And I think it's, happens to be really good for the NHL as well, because TNT and Turner with Bleacher Report and like House of Highlights, they have the ability to reach kind of a younger demographic that the NHL is kind of, failed to reach for a long time. The NHL has never really been that amazing at marketing itself, and Turner has a reputation for the most part of being able to really market its leagues and its players, and I think the NHL being able to tap into that is a big win for them.
Another thing on the on Turner's the NBA, obviously, and we wanted to get your thoughts, and this is more not a media rights deal, but Dan, you can go ahead in terms of your question and really relating to New York basketball.
Right, so I just kind of wanted to ask about, obviously the Nets have had a lot of stars that have joined the team, and suddenly the New York Knicks are getting better. They're getting a lot better. So I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on, do you think it's possible anytime soon that the Nets ever eclipse the Knicks as maybe New York's team, especially when, maybe some people thought they would coming up, but now the Knicks are good? Just what are your thoughts on that overall?
Well, I think that the main word in your question is ever, because it's not going to happen this year or next year or in 5 years from now. But maybe if the Nets win some championships here, and you see kind of the younger generation of kids growing up now, and they grew up with the Nets being like that successful dominant team, I think that's how you grow a successful and long-lasting fan base. So we're not talking about 3 or 5 years from now, but maybe we're talking 10 or 15 years. I grew up in the 90s when the Knicks were good, and so that helps my kind of age group have that affinity for the Knicks, and allows them to even root for the team even though they've been suffering for the last 20 years. And so maybe you see if you're 8, 9, 10, 12, 13 years old, and you see the Nets competing for and winning championships possibly, then you see the Nets fan base growing organically in that way.
Yeah, in terms of the NBA, and that's something we've touched on, but definitely not anytime soon. And I thought, because it's sort of funny, but I in terms of just how the kids in high school are wearing jerseys, I've definitely seen, just being in New York, and I'm sure you've seen this too, a lot of, first off, it was a lot of Golden State during their run, but a lot more in Brooklyn. But I think this year was a reminder to a lot of people how popular the Knicks are, definitely. Brennan, you have a question in terms of this weekend in sports media coverage, so.
Yeah, I kind of want to just talk about the Derby a little bit. I mean, we got excited yesterday. Obviously, you never want to bet against a Baffert horse. But what was it like for you, at least personally, watching the Derby and some of the coverage that went into that, and how in depth they covered the horses?
I think it's great that they can have the just the depth and the breadth of coverage on that day. It'd be cool to see it covered more than just Derby Day, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. But I think that the big winner of the day were definitely Tom Brady and his whatever evil outfit or whatever the hell that was.
Yeah.
And obviously, I think the big winner of the day besides for Baffert was Steve Kornacki.
Yes.
He can basically just go in and basically, it seems like he can do anything. He can, run the election boards and make like nerdy white shirt and khaki pants combination from like a sex symbol. He can do NFL playoff projections, and he could be the only one out of the 11 people who picked, the Derby for NBC and picked the winner. So I think that he was winner. We're just like in the age of Kornacki now. There's just no question about that.
Absolutely, 100% agree. One of those guys that moves the needle when he comes on the screen, right?
He gets the people going.
Absolutely. All right, thanks.
In terms of other coverage and from this weekend, because obviously the Derby, I know you tweeted about Trey Wingo hosting the Fox NFL draft. I didn't watch any of it. Obviously, there's so many draft options nowadays that your head spins. What draft coverage did you watch? And if it was Fox, how was that coverage?
I watched the Fox coverage for a little bit. I think it was interesting to see the diverse group of voices that they had. But like you guys said, it's just so many options that it's hard to really kind of distinguish yourself among that. Bleacher Report had Taylor Robertson, and a bunch of other people do that as well. And so there's just so many options that it's very hard. You think all that money into it, and what is that return on investment? But you want to see your company doing something that and that's going to be diluted even further with sports gambling properties and people like that going into that as well. When you see DraftKings paying $50 million to Dan Levitard to have his show sponsored like that, so we're gonna see that kind of diluted even further in terms of content.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think Greenberg too, in terms of first time for hosting, didn't do bad, but obviously Trey Wingo was the longtime host going to Fox. I want to end the interview with this, and I'm sure this is a question you get a lot, but your Twitter bio says Jeff Van Gundy says I have the name of the century. I want to know the story behind this, and if you pronounce your name wrong, and if just really the story behind your name, because it's one of the things that popped out to me on Awful Announcing, because I'd read it and I'd be like, that's such a cool name. Like, I just being honest, but how did that story with JVG go?
sure it was, I think, the NBA Finals, I don't know how many years ago, 6, 7 years ago, and they had a media conference call, and it was my turn to ask a question. And, I asked my question, and Van Gundy's like, well, hold up. Is that your real name, or is that a stage name? Like, I don't know how I would think of that as a stage name, but, he's like, oh, okay, that's got to be the name of the century. So I've kind of rolled with it since then.
That is awesome. And it's, in terms of guests, you're the guest of the semester, if that's all right. Not name of the century, but guest of the semester.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I'm sure there isn't much semester left, so
no.
I definitely appreciate that.
All right, thanks for hopping on. That was Shlomo Sprung of Forbes and Awful Announcing, who joined us on the show. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
All right, so that was, again, Shlomo Sprung of Forbes and Awful Announcing. He's usually, mainly, he doesn't really make media appearances in terms of just the writing, but I wanted to get him on just because there's a lot of stuff going on this week in media. And he's a guy I've been following for a while, and I wanted to make an in-studio show, at least a guest. I mean, we're gonna have to guest at 12:50, of course. But I thought he had a lot of. You're looking way too into this, by the way. But I think he had some great insight. He's a Kornacki fan, which.
Yeah, I know. And when he said that, I got so excited. So excited because I'm a huge Kornacki guy, and you, John, I'm surprised you didn't say anything, to be honest.
Well, yeah, no, I wasn't gonna, but I'm a fan of his, or not a fan, but besides, and believe me, him getting the Derby pick right impressed me a lot. Definitely bumped him up a lot of levels for me. But why he was there yesterday was just to read the odds and give certain stats. With the election coverage, yes, I make a pick, which I know. With the election coverage, it's telling me about the counties and the demographics of people in these counties. What is he telling me about odds, But hey, he got it right, so I think I got to shut my mouth. And you got to wear a suit. That's his whole look. And I'm holding a roll of paper, and I'm not It's the same thing on the guy on CNBC who does the stocks. He's like, I'm cool because I don't wear a suit jacket, but I do have to wear a tie. And But yeah, so there you go.
You know what though, John?
I got to go yell at clouds.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. All right. When we come back, there's no new transition out of that. When we come back, we will do our MVP of the week, a great week in terms of sports all around, and we'll say, and it could be not sports, it could be news, pop culture, anything. That's the way the segment goes. And then round out the show, we'll have a guest, and we'll reminisce about our time here doing a show in Sports with Nick show, as well as the MVP show for our last in-studio one. Not our final show of the semester. We will have a remote one next week, and then discuss our summer plans in terms of the show. But for this, for in-studio for the semester, this is it. So make sure you're here for the last 20 minutes. You are watching or listening to the MVP show.
It's important to make sure your family has a plan in case of an emergency. We talked to this family to see if each of them knew where to meet if they were not together when something happened.
If a natural disaster happened and we were outside the home, we would all meet at the park. That's our meeting point.
I'm meeting place at our neighbor's house because she is my mom's good friend. We all have a meeting spot, which is a bus stop.
Is your plan any better? To learn more about making an emergency plan for your family, go to ready.gov. This message brought to you by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and the Ad Council.
Are you feeling depressed, melancholic, experiencing a case of the Mondays, blue, exhausted, emotionally drained, not excited, depressed, miserable, unhappy, dejected, or sad? Well, there's only one cure. Listening to Real Sad Lad Hours, Mondays from 10 to midnight on VIC Radio.
Up next on VIC, Union One, it's the place to be. Talking sports with the MVPs, that's Miller, Vicari, and Passante. NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, college sports, whatever you need. The MVP show where you need to be. Sports radio on VIC, that's MVP. Sundays on VIC, that's MVP. Sports Talk Radio, VIC.
Welcome back in. MVP show here, May 2nd, already in May. Hard to believe, but we are here covering sports. We talked a little NFL draft. We talked a little international soccer, which is not something we do every day. And we had Shlomo Sprung hop on and talk all things sports and sports media. But now it is time for our MVP of the week. This is someone or something that we thought had a great week, and it could be in news, sports, pop culture, entertainment, however you want to classify it, just something we saw and believe it deserves some props. Brennan, I want to start with you here for your MVP of the week one last time in the studio.
Yep, my MVP of the week is going to be Bob Baffert, the trainer of Medina Spirit, last night's Kentucky Derby winner. Baffert has had quite a run here, huh? Yeah. He's one of the greatest trainers to ever live at this point in horse racing, and another Kentucky Derby for him. Is that 7 straight, I think is the number, or something like that?
7 all time.
7 all time, yeah, which makes him the most winning trainer in Kentucky Derby history. Absolutely ridiculous. He trained American Pharaoh when Pharaoh went and won the Triple Crown. He also trained Justify after that. He's just a legendary trainer, and you never bet against, as we mentioned when our guest was on, never bet against a Baffert horse, because they are horses that know how to run on the big stage and make some people a little bit of money.
Oh yeah. Hey. Dan, you want to hop in?
Oh, I wonder who those people are. Anyway, I think my MVP this week has to be the Ithaca College women's lacrosse team. They went 12-1 this season. The one loss being in the Liberty League Championship yesterday, but they finished an undefeated season. That's not easy to do. They obviously won a few games before the pandemic, then a few after, which gave them quite a long winning streak there. But that's an accomplishment, going undefeated all the way into the championship game, and there may not be a banner to hang for it, but that doesn't matter. They really did have a fantastic season. I think they certainly deserve the MVP for their season finishing yesterday.
Yeah, what's tough? Bob Baffert was my first, and then I was going to drop to an Ithaca College sport for my second backup. So now I'm just a man without an MVP. But I could tell you.
This is what we get for not telling you.
This is. And you know what? I was thinking when you mentioned stuff, I'm like, he might go Baffert, but he might not go. And then.
Should have just done the horse.
The horse itself.
Medina Spirit is my MVP. The horse looks great. I could talk on Baffert. You pretty much touched on it though. He's the Bill Belichick of horse racing. Yeah, honestly, I mean, and it's so great because you look at both Belichick and you look at Baffert, and there was a stretch where they didn't have titles. They make playoff appearances in Belichick's case during, what I like to call the good times, where it was like pretty much 2005 to 15, where he had 2 Super Bowl losses versus the Giants, and then a lot of conference championship losses to either Peyton Manning or Joe Flacco, and missing one, Ben Roethlisberger. But this past decade, it's been all Baffert, it's been all Belichick, and it's unbelievable. Now, what makes this exciting for me in terms of sport, horse racing, because last year was just, honestly, the last 2 years have been a mess. In 2019, it was the controversial Kentucky Derby finish with the horse it was bumped, and in terms of the lanes, and it was a whole thing, and it was pretty much a long shot who won the Derby, and it was in rainy conditions, and it was a whole scandal and this and that, and then really you knew that for a Triple Crown bid that wasn't going to happen. And then last year they had it in September, I believe, the Kentucky Derby, and it got postponed due to COVID-19, and it just didn't feel the way it should, and it wasn't the first race in the Triple Crown order. It was a whole thing. So we're back to normalcy in terms of the Kentucky Derby, and even though you could argue that having another Triple Crown winner, especially 3 in the last 6 years, could be just taking people out of horse racing, to me, it's what brings people in for these summer months, the fact that a horse could have a Triple Crown. Obviously, it wasn't the same shock value or ratings with American Pharaoh because it was the first one, and also Justify had a lot. But you believe in Medina Spirit now because of who is training in Bob Baffert. John Velasquez is on the horse. You believe in it, so for me, it makes horse racing relevant for like one more month, which is always appreciated.
Okay, also, I'm changing my MVP.
Whoa.
To Medina Spirit.
Okay.
I just read the Wikipedia.
He has his own horse has Wikipedia.
The horse has a Wikipedia.
Wow.
Yes, and there's lots of links to like the bloodline.
Sure.
He sold for the minimum $1,000 at a breeder's sale. Like, he was not a horse that people expected to be able to run and win the Kentucky Derby, or else people paid millions of dollars for these colts to come out and run. Yeah, I know. Medina Spirit, absolutely. From 0 to hero here, a minimum $1,000 sale to now winning the Kentucky Derby in his 3-year-old season. Wow. Yeah, I'll change it up.
Cool. So
I'll give a horse. I'll give a horse a trophy. Why not?
I'm sure Medina Spirit appreciates it.
I'm sure he does.
Yeah.
I don't have my own Wikipedia page. It's pretty impressive.
Right?
Yeah.
No. We actually, Medina Spirit's our special guest.
Yeah.
Medina Spirit, are you there? Louisville, Kentucky.
It's just a horse.
No, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so John.
Yeah.
If I'm looking at that time clock correctly.
Yeah, it's still 50.
It says 12:49:59.
59:50. Yep.
Yes.
So I believe what you said was that at 10 minutes left in the show, we would have a special guest.
Our guest is hopefully getting on the horn. If not, we got a BS for 10 minutes. I'll be honest with you. In terms of our guest, it's going to be Gavin Miller.
Let's go! I
get on
knew
the
it!
line soon for the last 10 minutes, and we say goodbye. It might be a goodbye where Gavin just YouTube chats. Maybe he doesn't want to talk to us, but we want to just pretty much remember the last, our last show in studio, our whole run here. We'll take a quick break, regroup, and then, go down memory lane here on VIC and on YouTube.
Love listening to all kinds of music? Get your fix of pop, rock, and alternative finds on the mix. From chart toppers to garage bands and everything in between. Tune in Friday 6 to 8 p.m. for the mix. Only on the Vic. I would do anything for love, like catch a grenade, jump in front of a train, watch The Bachelor, slaying a fire-breathing dragon, or tuning in to Nothing But Love on VIC Radio Tuesdays 11 to midnight.
Up next on VIC, you know it's the place to be. Talking sports with the MVPs, that's Miller, Vicari, and Passante. NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, college sports, whatever you need. The MVP show where you need to be. Sports radio on VIC, that's MVP. Sundays on VIC, that's MVP. Sports Talk Radio, VIC.
And welcome back into the MVP show. Last 10 minutes on the clock, and then coming up after us is Follow the Herd on VIC, but you are watching or listening to the MVP show on our YouTube page and on VIC Radio, and we appreciate the fact that you do. And on the line, we have a long-time listener, not even a first-time caller. Gavin has been on the show before, but we do have Gavin Miller, Brennan's brother. It's Brennan's last in-studio appearance, and Gavin's called in to, I don't know, congratulate you, make some jokes, but Gavin, welcome on in.
Thank you for having me.
So Gavin, by the way,
So I wrote a little piece out for the boys at IC. Pretty formal of me, but I just want to start out by saying that probably one of the biggest fans have tuned a lot of time in both shows. I dedicated this call not only to congratulate my main man on a great college broadcasting career, but to also thank the rest of the boys for always supporting me over the years, from all the way back to the Sports with Nick show, laughing at when I roasted Nick. Supporting me at the sectional game, surprising me doing that, to let me tag along at the Cortica game, what an event that was, and most recently, attending my grad party, making that a blast. Lots of memories there. I can't forget my boys, Ben and Jaden. Gotta give them a special
They're sleeping.
Boys. They've also been there through the years. So, I know it's been tough losing Nick with the show.
It hasn't, but thank you.
Losing Nick.
I know it's going to be tough losing Brennan.
Yes.
Or it may not be. I don't know. But anyways, good luck to you and the rest of the boys and the rest of yours at IC. And then into your careers, just remember me when you get famous. And also, I'd like to add my MVP of the week. Basically because I'm like part of the show, and I thought I should just add my MVP of the week. So my MVP of the week are the boys at IC, especially the MVP show for helping me procrastinate my homework on Sunday.
Wow. Thank you.
Anytime.
We appreciate it. I don't even know where to go from there, Gavin. That was a perfect phoner, man. Thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, thank you for letting me surprise Will.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Gavin.
Mission accomplished, man.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm sure he'll tune in. So are you all right?
No, I don't.
I'm sorry.
Man, I made that whole thing earlier about how I'm not like a sentimental guy.
Yeah.
And he doesn't write stuff down. Like that's what got me. The fact that he the fact that he took time to write something.
I did not want to do this to you. I feel so.
No,
I feel sorry.
No, you're fine.
I want to make this last show special because it is. I mean, listen, we as us three, we did not know each other before going to this college. Literally, I was in the intro adjourned with Dan, and Dan was not my roommate freshman year. He was a couple houses or a couple rooms down, and he just he knew that he got an email from Nick, and he didn't want to tell me if I didn't get it. So he just sort of said, "Hey, did you get an email from that Nick guy?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Awesome." So we're on the same show, and Nick put us together. And then I met this guy the day before our first Sports with Nick show with Palmer's Live Football, and I was like, "Oh, he seems like a good guy, this and that." And obviously, he's got to be good. They put him in the booth to start us here at Palmer's Live in Ithaca, and I was like, "Hey, it's a pretty good freshman class. This guy seems cool." And then we come in, Dan and I do, for the first show, and Brennan's sitting there, and I'm like, "Geez, I can't escape this guy. I guess I'm gonna have to know him because he's part of Palmer's Live Football, and now he's the third guy that Nick chose." And from there we drove Nick crazy, and then put his radio show, some would say to a tremendous heights, others would say to the ground. I think it's that's what you asked. And just kidding. And
hey, we want a plaque.
Yeah, we want a plaque.
We do have a plaque. We do.
And and then from there we had a radio show, and obviously it was over Zoom, and I know it was tough, and I know I talked too much at times, and I apologize for that. But it's been a run. It's been a run, and we want. I so wish we could do this again next semester, but and we all graduate at weird times, and it's all complicated, but. And this year in the world has been something, but I'm glad we got to. I'm glad we got to do this show together. Dan, anything you want to add? I'm sure Brennan's a little. You could add something.
I'm getting it together.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been. I mean, obviously it's been fun, or else I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
It's been a constant. Not too many things are constant these days in the world in general. So it's been nice, thinking back to the days of Nick where we would yell about the Giants, and he'd give me a few minutes to yell about Giannis or something like that, and the plaque that we have, all the forehead jokes at the Just Desserts. It's been a wild ride throughout the years. It really has, and it's been a lot of fun.
And I think that's the thing that is getting me, is that the fact that, like you said, and it has been so constant. Over the weekends, and obviously not just for the three of us, but obviously Gavin as well, who's tuned in to every show and took time out of his day to be on. But no, this is definitely something that I'm gonna miss. It's not often that you get to sit here and talk sports for an hour with two of your best friends. So, man, I really didn't think that this was going to get me. And this is not the first time that I've done something like this. I had my last ICTV show earlier this week, and I was fine through the whole thing.
Yeah.
Didn't have any issues. But no, I mean I love you guys, and this will not be the last time that any of us are behind a mic with one another. It's not going to be the last time that we work together. Obviously, and I say that knowing that we have a show next week.
Yeah.
But obviously in studio, this is my last time in studio, and it takes some time for these things to sink in. But I appreciate you guys so much for the last few years, and it means a lot.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We have a minute left. I don't know where to go from there, but this was fun. I hope everyone tuned in this whole semester, and it's been an adjustment, believe me. Especially I wanted to keep doing the show during the fall and doing it on Zoom and adjusting the audio and not being HD half the time. And there's people out there, whether they be friends, family, or just some random people who've even reached out and they've consumed our show once, and we appreciate it because we try and do this. We do a lot and this is not a humble brag. We do a lot in terms of our media careers, but this has been something that I think has all made us better. Dan, you mentioned it. We have fun doing it, and I don't think there was one episode that we didn't want to do. Even when it was in the fall, we had to wake up on Saturday mornings and do a recorded show just to do a live show the next day because it was a half an hour, and I don't.
When we didn't have the 12 to 1 time slot.
Yeah.
on Sunday morning.
Yeah. So I mean, we started at 8 a.m. with Nick, and now we're in the driver's seat at noon. But again, we appreciate everyone for tuning in, especially to this episode. We will be back with a remote one next week, and it'll be on YouTube, on VIC Radio, not live, obviously recorded the day before. But in terms of this show, anything else we want to add before we sign off?
I'm good.
Okay.
We all said it.
I haven't done one yet. I'm not going to do it now.
Okay. This has been the MVP Show on YouTube and VIC Radio. Follow us at the MVP Show. And again, thank you for watching and listening. For Dan Passante and Brennan Miller, I'm Vicari. Have a good rest of your Sunday.